Tonight on the Cover One Buffalo podcast, we are joined by our man Connor from Talking Cowboys and the 33rd team. But first, our guys over at Handsome Jack. Many people ask us the best way to support us here at Cover One, and that is to sign up to become a Cover One Pass member. That contribution helps give us the access to all the data and information we use to create the content that you love.
And I think most importantly, brings you into our community of insiders. It's a great community based on Slack. I know a lot of people don't want to be on social media anymore or be in on those conversations. We bring all of it to you right in our great community of educated fans. And most importantly, you get access to our content creators.
Even better than that, everybody loves merch. You get awesome t-shirts, a cool decal, and a letter from the Cover One team signed directly to you.
All for $60. That gets you the entire season, next year's free agency and draft. $60. Click the link in the description. Cover One Insider. Become one today.
We ran our one passes. You know,
we're having a tough night to start. That's okay.
We're just welcoming people aboard.
We're just excited this is a real game.
What we have. I do. Yeah, I'm somehow thrown off in what's there. So good evening. And welcome to the Cover One Buffalo podcast. We'll see how things go tonight. It is like I'm so conditioned to there being some like terrible new headline or some new article or
coming
some new injury
loss.
Or that we're coming off back-to-back, nasty losses or losing to a terrible team. We won a game against a good team. There are a couple little injury things, but not like some new season-ending thing we didn't know about. Of what was there. There's no new crazy article that I've seen yet. We'll see.
Part two,
and we're on to the Cowboys, which is honestly, if you look from a Vegas standpoint, not crazy to say a possible Super Bowl like preview. The Bills could either not make the playoffs or face the Cowboys in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, right.
That's our life now. How are you doing this week as we kind of get almost back to normal?
Yeah, no, I think it is a trend towards normalcy right now of how you feel about this matchup and how the national media feels and how Vegas feels about a game like this being considered a big game. I think when we look back at this season, if it's going to go the way that I think it's going to go, this might be the game of the year. With what we know about the teams, this is what always bothers me so much about the idea of strength of schedule in August, right? Like we don't know who's going to be high come December, and that's really what matters. And now you have really the Bills starting to trend in the right direction over the last month. But really, is there a team besides 49ers playing better than Dallas in terms of like the offense getting right at the right time? Then it's the Dallas Cowboys and San Francisco 49ers are probably the two best. And so for the NFL to get these two teams trending at the right time with the games that matter, right? Like Dallas needs to win this. They want to get as many home field games as they can going into the playoffs. The Bills are trying to win this. Now we're talking about that. Potentially, if you went out, you might have the possibility of playing for the division in that final game. So everything's changed over a 3-week period here in Buffalo. So of course it's exciting getting ready for a matchup show like this, dude. Super exciting.
So without further ado, we have a new guest joining us for the first time here tonight. Our man Connor from the 33rd team. Connor, how are we doing?
Doing good, guys. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. It's fun. Obviously I grew up in the late 80s and 90s and seeing that run of obviously Aikman and Emmett and Irvin and the entire run there, and then different downturn. The Bills dipped lower than the Cowboys, but now coming back to where having it feel fun and exciting and a matchup like this where everybody's talking about this is like the matchup to watch and what's there. How's the mindset of Cowboys fans and the guys covering the team to have such a ridiculously fun team to cover with the explosive offense and players like Micah Parsons, the defensive player of the year candidacy? Is it as fun as it seems to be around the team and the fan base right now?
Well, like we were talking on the the green room before the show started, like you're like, normally there's a bad headline. You just mentioned it, there's a crazy story that's come out or like an injury. Like we just went through that a couple weeks ago. Like that's the thing is like before the bye week, we were trying to fire the coach, trying to, can you pay Dak? Like, I mean, again, I'm probably one of the biggest Dak Prescott, but the first 6 or 7 weeks of the year, the offense was off to a historically bad start. And it was going, what's going on with the offense? CeeDee Lamb isn't getting the ball. Brandon Cooks is off to his worst start in 10 years. Tony Pollard looks terrible. The offensive line sucks. The play callers, we were going through all that 7 weeks ago. So it's definitely a different vibe than it is now than it was before the bye week. But seems like they hit as many reset buttons as you can see a team hit reset buttons in a single season during the bye week. And it's been a really exciting trip upward from there.
I saw a bunch of fantasy folks talking about Dak may be, in hindsight, the most impactful player in fantasy football, not because of who drafted him, but because of how many people dropped him during that bye week. And the people that picked him up there.
That's me.
Yeah. The people
who dropped him in a league I'm commissioner in, and people were like, holy crap, things are falling apart. If you're drafting Dak,
the Cowboys.
Like, hey, that's a Mike McCarthy move, not a Dak Prescott move. And then the bye week happened, and I'm like, that's why I'm not good at fantasy football.
Well, and now, for anybody who's not aware, has been following, the point totals the Cowboys have put up since Connor references 49, 33, 45, 41, 33, with an awful lot of those touchdowns coming involving Dak Prescott. And he's now going to win people fantasy championships running through that stretch. It's just crazy to see. It makes me feel a little bit better that, even a team playing as well as the Cowboys was having similar discussions as what we've had here with the Bills.
Yeah, I always think the Bills and the Cowboys are so similar, like in everything, like every aspect of the team. It's like, I mean, again, I don't want to cause a ruckus here, but I feel like the Bills have somewhat disappointed in the playoffs in recent years, even though they've had good teams. Like, it just seems like a lot of the conversation pieces around the Bills and the Cowboys are very eerily similar, even though they're different.
Yeah. And well, that's an interesting one for me too, because I don't spend a lot of time, obviously I'm stuck in the Bills Twitter and just the Bills ecosphere, just kind of in that. But with a coach like McCarthy, who on the outside looking in, I'm not a big fan. I've never been a huge fan of McCarthy, but when you have a guy that's necessarily like a retread like that, but you have all this talent, right, in a Super Bowl window, how much patience is there? You were talking about there was like the people wanting to fire the coach early on. Like, how big is that rope, that leash? Where are fans at? Is that a week to week thing that with fans being in or out on McCarthy? And is there pressure? Like, hey, we got this retread. Do we have to do something different to win right now, where we got a team that can really make a run at a Super Bowl? Because that's what's going on here in Buffalo, right? Like, you have this roster, you have a team. Do we have the right coach?
Yeah, no, I mean, we went through that this first 6 or 7 weeks of the year where it was, it's kind of like no matter what happens this year, this is the last year McCarthy. We're excited for that. Now, again, that was when the offense was at a historically bad rate. Everybody looked – not saying the offense looked like the players looked bad, but just what they were doing on offense didn't look good. And that's the funny thing is, like, a lot of people are like, oh, since the bye week, Dak Prescott's played phenomenal. And it's like he was actually playing a really good pre-bye week, outside of the 49ers game. He was just executing a really bland and boring offense to a really high level, and it wasn't putting up big statistics, or you weren't seeing a lot of these wow throws because a lot of the stuff was east-west, West Coast stuff, and it just wasn't what people love to watch. It wasn't the Patrick Mahomes or Josh Allen crazy, off script, big shots. It was a lot of just in-time slants and in-time outbreakers and stuff like that, where it's like it's still high-level quarterback play, but it's just not something that the average football watcher is going to ooh and ah over. But I think it's changed. I think looking at it now, you can go, hey, no matter what, I think you're going to give McCarthy another year to kind of prove himself because of how well these things have put together and how well this offense has looked since the bye week.
So going into some of the matchup pieces here, I think you talk about some of the things that are easy to see from the casual fan. I was struck by how much of a level up it seems like CeeDee Lamb has taken here, and that obviously the pick your poison element of the rest of the pass catch. I think Jake Ferguson has been like a revelation of having that as an outlet to it, and then it seems like every other game is sometimes it's Gallup, sometimes it's Cook. There's different pieces, kind of. Maybe even Jalen Tolbert's gotten his moment. All that has been, hey, there's always somebody there, but the consistency of what we've seen from CeeDee Lamb, he's always been an exceptional talent. But what have you seen being so close to it that's helped him take it up to where like, hey, now it's right there with the Justin Jeffersons and the Cooper Kupps and the Stefon Diggs. They're like, no, this is a guy you can depend on. It's not just the flashy catches.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, and again, pre-bye week, there was a lot of conversations about that too, because he's due for a contract here soon, and it was like, hey, he's not playing like the Dak conversation. It's not that he's playing bad; he's just not getting the football. He's executing his role, but it's not a role where you're like, hey, this is a guy we got to pay however many $1 million to. But I think since the bye week and what we've seen over the last year and a half or so is he's just a guy that he gets so much flack for, I guess, playing in the slot. Which nowadays it's like if you play in the slot, you're not a good receiver, even though some of the best receivers in the NFL are slot receivers. But he's not just a slot receiver. Like I think one of the biggest things that's happened post-bye week is they've moved him around a lot more. They've gotten him from out of just being a slot guy to getting
barely
him
over 50% now.
Yeah, like he's playing a lot of that X, getting him in those one-on-one matchups, which is making things difficult to defend because you got CD on an island and some of those 3-by-1 sets. And it's like, okay, are we going to shift our coverage to these 3 receivers over here or shade coverage to CD side? And if you're shading coverage to CD size, well, then, you're able to get some of those crossers and some of those deep crossers and stuff like that to the other side of the field because you got safety help on CD's, X receiver, strong side receiver side. And then you can get him isolated in the slot, which they did against Philly a little bit more. They were able to get him against Ronald Darby, some of those matchups, he's able to just get ISO'd and, put a move on a guy and win the route, win the ball, and there you go, you're cooking. It's just he's a guy that you can truly move anywhere you want him to. He takes handoffs out of the backfield. He takes jet sweeps. He lines up in the slot. He lines up as the X. He can line up anywhere on the field, and he can hurt you from any area on the field, which is just not something a lot of guys in the NFL nowadays can do.
When I think what's made the offense so dynamic, because there's obviously other receivers playing fantastic and getting a ton of volume and looking good. It's the fact that in many of those offenses, you can bracket, you can double. And here there's so many other options that Dak is seeing and utilizing. Obviously, I'm sure it's been a huge topic for your content. What is the biggest shift coming out of the bye that you've seen of like Dak just looks like a point guard out there? It's so interesting to see just the distribution coming across. And now we've seen the big step forward from Jake Ferguson. We've seen, like you said, the more consistency from Cooks. What is it that's giving him that option? Obviously, I think there's a little bit in the schedule, but now some of the better teams, now they're taking it to. How is it coming together that consistently for his distribution?
Whatever happened over the bye week is huge because, like I said, he was doing a lot of those things you just mentioned, like the timing aspect of things, the hitting the back foot of his drop, letting the ball go. Like he was doing that, but he had like the second lowest average depth of target. I think it was him and Anthony Richardson were 31st and 32nd. And it's like that's just not like Cowboys fans who hate Dak and people who hate the Cowboys and Dak in general will say like, oh, Dink and Dak, but like that's not who he's been for a long time. He's been a guy who's been aggressive. I mean, we talked way too much about the interceptions last year when there's a lot of bad luck involved in those. He's been a guy who's never turned the ball over at a high rate. He did it last year because he was being very aggressive in the middle of the field and deep down the field. The one thing that I think's helped this offense a ton is the motion aspect of things. I mean, they were I think they were 31st in the league in motion pre-bye week with Philadelphia at 32nd. And now they're like top 6 in the NFL since the bye week with their motion percentages. That's one way that they're using CD and not allowing him to really get doubled or bracketed too with some of the way they're using him in motion and just getting him some free releases off the line and getting the ball to him quick in routes. But you mentioned a guy earlier who's not getting a lot of stats. He's not getting a lot of love from, I keep saying it, I don't mean to discredit, like the casual fan. Jalen Tolbert probably doesn't have 10 catches in the last 7 weeks, but the things he's doing as a blocker and a motion player and a clear out player is just opening up a lot of things for this defense or for this offense, excuse me. Michael Gallup's just not a guy who moves all that well anymore since the many lower body injuries he's had. He's not a guy you're going to run around in motion, orbit motions type of things they've been doing recently. So getting Jalen Tolbert to kind of cut into Gallup's snap count is allowing them to do more motioning, more clear out stuff, deeper routes, more route tree stuff, which is able to kind of just open up other areas of the field to target guys like CeeDee Lamb, Jake Ferguson, Brandon Cooks, and like I said, they're not Gallup and Tolbert aren't catching a ton of passes, but some of the stuff they're doing and the way they're splitting their snaps up to free up other guys has really been a cool thing to kind of see post by too.
So one last thing on offense here. The one part that hasn't clicked with me is it's odd to see the offensive explosion and a ton of games with really big leads, and it hasn't translated to like huge Tony Pollard numbers. Like he was such like an explosive, efficient player, and I think some people struggle with correlating the smaller sample sizes and the change of pace guys when you get the larger workload, but just like the offensive line seems to be doing well. That like the sacks have come down since the bye. A lot of the other outside metrics, the pass block win rate, all the other pieces look like they make sense. Why hasn't it translated as much to be so pass heavy? Is that conscious decisions and just, hey, the numbers are kind of muted by milking the clock late in some like obvious rundown situations? Or is there something that's been missing with Pollard when he was so insanely explosive the previous 2 years?
I don't think Tony Pollard is as explosive this year as he has been in the past. I will say that, but I don't think the running game's lack of success is because of that, if that makes any sense. Like, I think you can say, hey, Tony Pollard doesn't look as great as he has in the years in the past from a change of pace, change of direction, explosiveness, running through, breaking through tackles. It's kind of getting going here recently. I think Philadelphia game was probably his best game of the year. So that's good for them because that's been the one, like you said, one area of their offense that hasn't really got going. But also, like, let me ask you guys this. Like, how do you guys think the Buffalo Bills offensive line is?
Top 10 in the NFL, I think.
We usually describe it. It's been nice that we're now finally above average.
So that's kind of like going back to what I like. I feel like I could be completely wrong here, but some of like the national media, like Buffalo Bills have the top 5-4 offensive line in the NFL. Like I feel like I've heard that conversation recently. Okay. And then you see Bills fans like, yeah, that's not the case. Like our quarterback's really good.
Some of the metrics are like there are metrics that have them literally number one, and we're all like, eh.
Right. So I joke around this time of year. I always joke around about how like quarterbacks always get their whole offensive line a gift, and like you always see that. And I'm like, those guys all need to pitch in and get Josh Allen something nice because he makes them look a little better.
Yeah. Same thing for Dallas. Like the offensive line metrics, like some of the PFF and ESPN rankings, it's like, oh, they're a top 6 unit. And then you watch them play, and you're like, "Man, I don't know about that." Like, and
they're good. Like we're not saying they're bad or a detriment, but it's not as good as those metrics.
Like they're like, you guys said top 10. Like I'd say Dallas's offensive line's like borderline top 12, 15. Like that's where they fall. But a lot of people think they have the top 5 offensive line, and that's just not the case. Like they're not run block. They have good run blocking players, but they don't run block great as a unit. Their run blocking scheme isn't great. Like they get in times where they get in a duo rhythm or they get in like a pin pull rhythm and they can kind of live with that. But it's very inconsistent with the way they block up front with their run blocking schemes. And then when you mix that with they're going to be pass heavy because of how efficient they've been through the air. And then you mix that with Tony Pollard maybe not having 100% of his juice. It just goes to a meh running game, and that's kind of what it's been. It's just been average.
And nowadays with modern NFL offense, if you're going to choose one to be
absolutely,
you're going to take the run all day.
Yeah, I think Greg Olson the other week, he was like, calling the game. He's like, like a lot of people are complaining because Tony Pollard isn't getting going or getting the touches, and it's like, well, would you rather hand the ball to Tony Pollard for 3.5 yards or throw it to CeeDee Lamb for 9.5? Right. And I was like, that's pretty, that's a very dumbed down way to talk about it. That it just, like you said, so many people correlate passing to like they're scared to do it too much, and it's just like if you have a good quarterback and a good passing game, you should be doing that in a 80 to 20% clip, and that's kind of what they're doing right now when they need to.
Yeah. Let's flip over to this other side of the ball here. Before we get into the pieces individually on this defense, are you guys going to give Dan Quinn a lifetime contract down there in Dallas so he just stays put and runs this defense? Because like this is a great argument right now. We're having this in Buffalo with Sean McDermott being a head coach. He's calling defense. I think we all like him as a defensive minded coach, right? Dan Quinn, I think, has proven to be one of those guys. He might not be the best head coach in the world, but how do you keep him in Dallas when you guys are turning out defenses as consistently as he has been the last couple of years?
Yeah, it's interesting because I think every year he's been here, every offseason, you said this is, he's probably headed out. He's going to take a head coaching job, and he just hasn't done it yet.
Yeah.
And there hasn't been a ton of those openings that are just like, a guy who's had success as a head coach before. Again, like, I don't know if we call him a great head coach, but he coached in a Super Bowl as a head coach. Like, is he going to want to take whatever job pops up that's, not a great, whatever that is, Arizona or something like that, which Arizona's had, I think a better year than a lot of people expected. But, he might be waiting for that perfect opportunity because why would he get himself in a bad situation when he can continue to coach a top, 5 or 6 unit in the NFL in Dallas and
with great facilities and
keep building the resume and then wait for the big job to open up. And it's like, all right, I'll take that one over. And I think that's probably some of it. He's also just not so many NFL head coaches are, I mean, for lack of a better term, big-headed guys. They want, they think they know it all. And he's just not that type of dude. Like he's pretty humble in the way he coaches. He's humble in the way he carries himself. And I think he's just like, hey, I'll have an opportunity to come along if it does. If it doesn't, I'll keep coaching a really good defensive unit. Hopefully we can compete for a Super Bowl here. It just doesn't seem like he's like chomping at the bit to get back to being the guy running the show, which I think's awesome.
Well, you look at guys like Steve Spagnuolo, who have made they didn't make it as head coaches. They come back and they just make a great career out of it. He's also hitting that kind of, he's in a rough spot between both age and being a defensive coach in modern, everyone's looking for young, hot offensive coaches. So you're not going to settle for an older defensive coach retread when you can sell that to your fan base. But anyways,
also Jerry Jones cuts a nice check.
Yeah, he's making a lot of money.
It's a great spot to be in. Well, and what makes it even a better spot to be in, we'll stay on the side of the ball that you guys left off on, is or the side of this is in the trenches, right? Having Micah Parsons, we were talking about it offline a little bit. Greg and I always talk about Myles Garrett. If you were going to redraft the league, who are some of the guys? And Micah Parsons would be in that top 5 for me of guys that are like, if you're going to redraft the league, who's one game record type dude that you can take? And the Bills have faced a number of really good top tier defensive linemen here throughout the year, right? You can't go through the NFL season without a Christian Wilkins, a Quinn and Williams. Like you're going to face some of these guys, but dude, guys, like getting ready for this defense. This is the kind that I was saying offline really keeps NFL defensive or offensive coordinators up at night because he's lining up everywhere. He's destroying things. So what can Bills fans expect from not just that, DeMarcus Lawrence? Like we're big fans of Dante Fowler here and trying to get in those pieces in the offseason. Like it's a rotation of guys, but what are they going to do? What is it going to look like against the Bills here this weekend?
Micah Parsons is going to line up all over the place. He's going to line up over the center. He's going to line up, off the ball some. He's not going to play off the ball, but he'll line up, off the ball and then come as a blitzer a lot of the times. They do a lot of simulated pressures with him too, where they'll line him up at linebacker, and then he'll rush and one of the ends will drop or tackles will drop. He's going to line up all over the place. And you said it. You've seen it with Myles Garrett a little bit, but man, there's and this, I swear this isn't my Cowboys bias coming out, but there isn't a more impact defender in the NFL than Micah Parsons, just because of where
his usage is different than anyone else. It's
just crazy. Again, wherever that weak spot is, and sometimes, again, against Philadelphia, he lined up across Lane Johnson for a majority of those snaps. He had the flu and still had, multiple pressures, a sack,
it's going to be a long day for Osiris Torrance. I think is what we're saying.
Yeah. He's going to line up over the center. He's going to line up over the rookie. He's going to, line up over Deion Dawkins. He's going to line up over all those guys. And he's not an easy guy. He's not a guy that a lot of people, he's a smaller dude. So a lot of people are like, oh, we'll put our, when he lines up on our big guy, it's Osiris Torrance, it's like he won't get through him. And it's like, that's not how it works. He's might be only 250, 245 pounds, whatever he is. But man, the guy is so explosive. He plays with so much power in his smaller frame. And you mentioned, DeMarcus Lawrence is having a hell of a year. He doesn't get enough credit for the player that he is.
He's like the cook. We were talking about cooks on offensive side of the ball. He's like that on the defensive side. He just consistently is a top tier player that we just don't talk about enough.
He's not a guy who puts up huge sack numbers, but he's a guy who puts up big pressure numbers, pass rush win rate, run stop. He does every, the teach tape stuff that we hear guys talk about with quarterbacks and all that. Like, he's a teach tape defensive end where if you want to play defensive end at a high level and play it the right way, just watch him play football and he's going to do really well. Osa Odighizuwa is probably one of the most underrated defensive linemen on that line. 3 technique, he's going to line up, probably over Osiris Torrance. Lines up head over the nose some too, but he's been a really good pass rusher this year. Better pass rusher than he is run defender, but he's kind of a guy that just gets into the backfield, so he's kind of a negative playmaker. He's been a lot of fun this year. I mean, he's going to be in a contract year next year, but I think he's going to be around Dallas for a while. Very underrated player. Dante, like you said, they kind of sent him in waves with Dante Fowler, Armstrong, Sam Williams. They kind of have that second package that they can throw in at you to give some of their A guys a rest. And all those players are guys that can generate pressure. I think the big thing there is, like, when you have the Dante Fowlers and the Dorrance Armstrongs in the game, you can run the football against them. Josh Allen, James Cook, I think when they give those first group guys a break and have those second guys, third guys in, I'd be hammering the running plays at that point because they're not good run defenders. Jonathan Hankins is probably going to miss this game with the high ankle sprain. They're going to be down their best run defensive lineman with Jonathan Hankins, meaning a lot of Mozzie Smith probably, which he has not been good this year for Dallas. It's been a very disappointing rookie year for him. So anytime you can get a chance to run it at Mozzie or the Dorrance Armstrongs. And one thing that I think Micah has to improve on is he is susceptible to getting beat by the run. He's such an aggressive player up the field. A guy who
can leave those gaps behind him.
He's not the most gap assignment sound player. So teams run at him, kind of give him some things to think about to slow him down a little bit. But you can run it at him a little bit. You can run it at those second wave group guys, and then honestly, both of the interior guys, Mozzie Smith and Osa Odighizuwa, you can kind of run it up the middle on as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought that up because really I was going to ask you if you're the Bills and you're Joe Brady, and we've seen better usage out of James Cook here the last couple of weeks with a switch from Dorsey, and we've seen not necessarily him get like a bell cow roll. If you were ever going to roll that out, I feel like that's really the way to attack this defense is not allow Dallas on the offensive side to get out more than 2 scores where they can really pin their ears back and just rush you, right? That's what Dallas is going to want to do, but really being able to run at them. But talk about too, you mentioned some of the things that I saw that were vulnerabilities in the run, the aggressiveness of Parsons, some of the interior line play, but I also think it leaks into the linebacker play. Even though I like sort of that, he's kind of like hybrid what the Bills are trying to do with the Bernard in Bell. I think that he's developing into that nice like coverage linebacker type role. Damone Clark, though, obviously with injury to Van Der Esch, big shoes to fill in that linebacking core. Is that some of the trickle into what is susceptible in the run game? And no one's really been able to hit you with it lately because you're up 2 scores so quick on teams that they can't really lean into a run game to try to get that vulnerability to their advantage.
Yeah, I say yes and no, and I really only say it that way is because I feel like a lot of the linebacker struggles at times on getting off blocks, stacking and shedding is because some of those other players are not doing their job.
We've seen it here,
No linebacker can play well without good defensive tackle.
Yeah, you're having, like I said, like it's been the disappointing thing. Like one of the few disappointing things this year has just been Mozzie Smith. They drafted him to help the run defense, and he hasn't done that. I mean, he's been bad against double teams. He's been bad against single teams in the running game. And again, like they're going to need him to play. They have Carl Davis on the practice squad who's kind of bounced around, who's a true nose tackle. Mm-hmm. I almost guarantee he'll probably get called up this week and play quite a bit just because I don't think they can rely on Mozzie Smith to come in and play 60, 70% of the snaps because I think it would go very poorly. So like I said, I mean, Carl Davis is a 6, 7, 8 year veteran that's 6'5", 340 pounds. He's not going to give you much, but he hopefully can eat up some blocks. Let your smaller, younger, inexperienced linebackers kind of flow a little bit freely to the football. I think those guys like started off the season kind of rough with Damone Clark and Marquise Bell, but they've really kind of, I mean, both of them are more so like coverage guys, sideline to sideline players. They've both gotten a lot better just taking on guys, taking the right angles, kind of getting off blocks at that second level point. This run defense isn't great by any means, but they're probably average to.
Yeah, I think so.
It's like they're. I bet you if you look at their rush EPA and rush success rate, they're probably 16th or 17th in the NFL. Like
it's somewhere hanging out there in the middle. And that's where it looks like too on film. Like I said, like no one's really been able to attack it. So it's not really necessarily probably even the problem you think it is, because it's not tested in really in a true way. But one thing that is tested often as teams are trying to get back into the game, and really lately, specifically since the bye has really stood out on film for me, is this defensive backfield. We were talking about it a little bit in the green room. I am a big believer Stefon Gilmore has not given a fair shake here in Buffalo and by Bills fans for how good of a cornerback he actually is, both here in Buffalo and everywhere he's been. He is just playing on a heater right now. Like anyone that is a hater of him, I please encourage you to go watch that Eagles game and watch him just dominating AJ Brown in that game throughout most of it. But we were talking about Dan Quinn a little bit here and like that type of hype around him. Is there a better position coach right now than Al Harris in the league? And is he a guy that you guys are worried about losing and continuing to just churn out all pro talent at this position every time he gets to touch somebody?
Yeah, I mean, that's a talking point around Dallas that I'm sure not a lot of people are, around the league or that follow other teams really talking about. But yeah, Al Harris has had a really good, tenure here with Dallas. Yeah. Deron Bland's been a big name, kind of having the Trayvon Diggs rookie year season.
A guy that I didn't know existed as a human to breaking the NFL record for pick sixes in return for a touchdown. Just unbelievable.
And taking over for a guy that was just doing that really out of nowhere. Like we knew Trayvon Diggs because of Stefon Diggs, but not like because he was a great player. And then, Harris gets, I don't know what he's doing over there, man, but it's something right.
Yeah, no, he's been great. And like I said, I hate to seem like I'm not giving him credit, but like they've had some failed experiments too. Don't get me wrong.
Sure.
The Kelvin Joseph thing didn't work out. He was a high draft pick. They couldn't really get it figured out what they traded him for. Noah Igbenogany to the Dolphins. But I mean, you can't say enough good things about this secondary unit. I mean, it's missing Trayvon Diggs, who I think was coming into the year, even though they added Stefon Gilmore. I think Stefon Gilmore was added to be the second corner, have Deron Bland play in the slot, have Stefon Gilmore and Trayvon Diggs man the outside and just really make it a pain in the ass to move the ball through the air on this Dallas defense. But Deron Bland played in the slot last year when, Diggs was there, and then Jordan Lewis got hurt. So he kind of moved back and forth between the slot and outside last year, started off in the slot this year, and then moved to kind of more of your primary boundary guy with Jordan Lewis back playing. Just like I said, he's that unit, and Al Harris, Dan Quinn have done a great job with that secondary and defensive front. It's been they're a little volatile. They'll give up some big plays. They'll give up some explosives for sure. But, they do a really good job of creating turnovers. They do a really good job of kind of locking in and making stops when it counts, which is we talk about on our podcast all the time. It's just there's not like it's the age of having like these elite defenses that just shut teams down. It just doesn't exist anymore. I mean, people thought it was Baltimore and they just gave up 30 some points last week. It's like it just doesn't exist. If you can create turnovers and you can get off the field, at a decently high clip, you're one of the top defenses in the league, and they do that good enough.
Yeah. Or you're the Browns and you can't score.
Yeah, I mean, but even them, like they'll have some weird games too, and they obviously they got some injuries, but like they'll have some weird games where they give up 31 points to a team that they shouldn't, and you're like, what? I thought this was like the top dog, and then you see them kind of struggle sometimes. It's so weird how it's shifted. Like a few years ago, I just felt like you always had defenses that like if you scored 14 points on them, you went doing something, and now it's like the average. A good defensive outing's like a 24-point.
Well, I think it's what you guys do in terms of like generating explosives and turnovers. Probably impact plays makes more of a difference. We saw with the Eagles last year. They weren't the best defense we ever saw, but they were talking about in terms of sacks and pressures and things like that.
Turnovers.
Yeah.
Well, and obviously there are pieces of that where there are some good front running defenses that if you get in the wrong game script can go downhill on you because they're built to be able to pass rush. Yeah, they're built to be able to play from ahead. But all of a sudden, if they get into a shootout, all of a sudden it becomes a shootout because they're not built for balance and different pieces like that. And Cincinnati is a great example of that. That if you can get a lead, you can run on them. Tennessee boat raced them. But if you let them get ahead, they can come downhill fast and be able to take care of you.
Yeah.
So one last question here is a really good one from our producer, Chris. You mentioned Mozzie Smith. Part of the reason Mozzie Smith is there, the rumor that we told ourselves here in Buffalo was we had to trade up to go get Dalton Kincaid to leapfrog Dallas because he was definitely going there. Do you think that was just, obviously stories like that get applied after the draft all the time. Do you think there was some fire to that smoke?
Everybody there says no, like that they were considering Matthew Bergeron, the Atlanta offensive lineman, and Mozzie Smith. That might be hurt feelings talking a little bit, like, are you really going to tell the world that the girl chose the other guy? And, I don't know if you're going to tell the whole story, but I think they might have had some interest there in Dalton Kincaid. Obviously, you mentioned it at the start of the show, like, I think they were really high on Jake Ferguson coming in this year. So I think they like Dalton Kincaid, but I think they went, hey, we probably have a tight end one. We want to add to that room, but we don't want to add to that room using a first-round pick.
And obviously they went with Schoonmaker, obviously right after.
Yeah, so second round, I think that was what they were always, like, hey, if we got a second round, if we got a tight end we like in the second, third round, let's do it there. Let's try not to do it in the first round. Again, like you hear a bunch of things like Sam Laporta was a guy that they would even have considered in that first round if their board was wiped. So I'm not saying they weren't interested in Kincaid because I think Kincaid kind of fit what they were looking for with their offense, with a guy who can kind of get up the field, be explosive. Didn't really fit like the blocking aspect of things that Dallas normally likes with their tight ends. But I love Kincaid coming out of college. I thought he was, outside of the age and injury stuff, I thought the way he played the game, you really liked what he could develop into. So yeah, I'm excited to see. I obviously watch him a lot with Buffalo on TV a lot and on Red Zone and all that stuff, and watching some tape of some opponents coming up. And I'm really excited to see Kincaid play. For a 60-minute broadcast this week.
Yeah, it should be a lot of fun. Speaking of which, what do you expect to see here? Let's figure out what kind of game do you expect and give us a score prediction.
I think it's going to be a close game, and I think it's going to be a relatively high-scoring game. Dallas scores. The weather's not supposed to be miserable in Buffalo this weekend, it looks like. So, normally some things that can hold them up is weather. I will say the Buffalo field is natural grass, correct?
No.
It's turf?
It's field turf.
It's like a turf, yeah.
All right. Yeah, for some reason, I thought it was natural grass. So turf is something that Dallas plays on really well. They play faster on turf. They have better success on turf. So that's a good news for Dallas fans. I know there's probably not many listening to this show right now, but I was expecting to be. For some reason, I thought the Buffalo field was natural grass. So that was one of my concerns. So
it will be. The next stadium will be. But
the new stadium is. This one currently has field turf, and I would say it's not. I don't think it's known as like the fastest turf, but it's still legit field turf. In that, and I think it's going to be reasonably nice. It might be cold. It's going to be cold by Dallas standards. I think it's going to be like upper 30s, lower 40s, but it's not going to be bad weather. No precipitation. It's just going to be cold.
Yeah. No. I got it. I think it's going to be a 35-33 game, close game, back and forth. Both teams are on a little bit of a heater right now, but I gotta go with Dallas here. They're like you said it. Outside of San Francisco, it's just tough to see a team playing better than them, more consistent than them right now. I'm really excited for this game because I think Buffalo is going to present some interesting challenges for them on the defensive side of the ball. I think that Dak Prescott's playing really well. Josh Allen's playing some of his best ball of the year, so I think it's going to be a quarterback-led day, and a lot of points, a lot of movement of the football. I'm sure Buffalo fans will hate me for this, but Josh Allen will turn the ball over once a game, and that can be the difference of the game. Dak hasn't been doing that yet. If that happens, I think it could swing the other way. But I think if a turnover or two generates the game, you got to say it's probably more likely to come from Buffalo right now than Dallas.
No, all fair points, and I think anyone objective would be crazy not to be picking Dallas in this one. I do think seeing the Vegas line shows people that, hey, this is a real matchup. Like, this is a legit, it's one of those things where, hey, if it was in Dallas would be favored. It's in Buffalo, so that they're slight favorites, but it's not the normal home field advantage. It's even less than that amount. I think it's floated between 1 and 2 in that range. And it's also one of the highest over-under totals of the week. So it makes sense that we could see a real shootout back and forth.
The NFL wants that. The NFL needs
memorable. That. Oh, yeah. This could definitely be one of those memorable just the last team to have the ball wins kind of games that we remember going back and forth, and makes people want this to be a potential final outcome in the Super Bowl. That's exactly what the NFL is looking for. So, Connor, let the people know where they can find more of your work, what you have coming up in the 33rd team and Talking Cowboys.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'm writing NFL and NFL draft content for the 33rd team. Can find all my work over there. Check it out there. And on Twitter at Connor NFL Draft, talking NFL Draft and NFL stuff over there. A lot of Cowboys over there. So if you don't want to hear about the Cowboys, you're probably going to hate my Twitter account. But that's just the nature of the beast.
No, we appreciate it, man. This is a ton of fun. Great having you on for the first time here. You guys will see some of his information in the show description. Make sure to check it out. And hopefully we have reason to talk to you again later on this year.
Oh, yeah, I'd love that.
No, that'd be fun.
Yeah.
All right, man. Talk to you soon. Thank you.
Good luck this weekend, man.
Thanks, guys.
It was a lot of fun having Connor on for the first time and being able to go through there. And we were talking pre-show. This is a weird game because like the statistical models will tell you this is technically the least important game on the remaining schedule. Now with Justin Herbert out and it's Easton Stick and the Patriots, and those are games that are even more favored for the Bills to win. They're going to be pretty heavy favorites in both of those games. And they're more important because of the AFC conference record tiebreaker is the number one tiebreaker when you get into multi-team ties, and there's so many teams that are in the same record area. It seems like that's going to matter a lot. And my brain acknowledges all those things, but I can't get out of my head the importance of how down we were in those moments, how rough the bye week was, and going through there and all the other reports and the calls for McDermott's head and everything, that a piece of me worries this team has so much built up into this bunker mentality and supporting him and rallying together. And these are our playoffs. So we have to take every game as a playoff game. You heard Josh and Mitch Morris all talking about it. A piece of me wonders, is there a lot built up in the importance of winning this game, of where it matters a little more than what the match says?
I think both what you're trying to say in terms of like it's like momentum of the season, right? Like they're rallying around the coach. They've gotten a big win. Regardless of how people feel about the Chiefs, that win matters more to a player. Like the Chiefs are still a good win in the NFL.
Still the defending Super Bowl champions.
Yes, correct. But you still got Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid line up. Like they're still a legitimate contender, a good team, one of the top teams in the AFC right now. So this is a big win you're coming off of. For me, it's also, if you are going to make a special run and like really turn this all around with all the negative press and firing coaches, and like you said, calling for coaches' jobs, and there's no way we can make that special run like they did. Everybody's pointing back to the 2021 season. Oh, we can't make that type of run. Look at this schedule. It's going to be too hard. If you are going to do it, it's coming out and like decisively being the better team in a game like this, when it is the two best teams in the NFL, or two of the top 5 teams in the NFL that are really legitimately, by everybody's measure, one of the teams really fighting for the idea of a Super Bowl. Like if Bills get in, they're going to be one of those favorites. And so it's everything the NFL wants it to be. And you've got to show up on that stage and really make the statement. I think everybody sees you beat Kansas City and like, okay, that's cool. Like Buffalo is up and down. They haven't been able to put anything together. But if they see you beat Dallas, who's playing red hot right now, and everybody's going to be having eyes on this game, and then you've got a couple that you should automatically win, then it gets real serious to talk about, okay, now that game in Miami, that's the division. Like no matter, and that puts pressure on Miami to not stumble again against a team like the Titans.
And they play Dallas, Baltimore, and finish with Buffalo coming up. That's a tough stretch to not stumble.
Yes, and you're breathing right down their neck. It's like Tiger Woods coming up the back 9 at the Masters, and you got like a 2-stroke lead, and it's like our presence is right there hanging in the East right now. But I think to be serious and really have those visions and getting all excited just thinking about it, it starts with winning this week. If you just if you drop this game, then win those ones you're supposed to, and maybe you limp in or back into the playoffs, somebody else loses, you're relying on some other people. But if you decisively run the table here, now we're talking like this is a special run you could go on.
Yeah, because so I'm going to talk out of both sides of my mouth. One, it's one of my favorite things. This game is incredibly important, and if we lose, I'm going to go through all the iterations of, well, it technically
The
didn't matter.
least
That
of
was,
them.
yeah, it was technically the game that it was the most okay to lose. And it's weird for fans to think about that. It's more okay to lose to the Cowboys than the Chargers
math.
or the Patriots.
The math.
Those games matter more because they're more important for the tiebreakers we need to get over the Steelers or the Colts or the Bengals or the Texans. We need to bank conference wins to get to that point. So, if we could choose that, hey, if you were, let me phrase it this way. If you were told, hey, you're going to go 3-4 in this final 4-game stretch, which game would you choose to lose?
Sure.
This is the one you would choose.
This is the one you have to choose.
Obviously our preference is to go 4-0 and to go in as the hottest team in the league and nobody wants to play us and blah, blah, blah. But if
I
you
want
were told,
fantasy
hey,
land,
you're going to lose one, which one would you want to lose? This is technically the one you would choose.
Yeah. But not losing it gives us a 99% chance
of
getting all the things that I want.
If we win this game, we are making the playoffs.
Yeah.
Because they're not going to lose both the Chargers and the Patriots game. They're not coming right now. This iteration of the team,
this feeling of me feeling this way today. Yeah.
Yeah. We have seen this exact team, shoot themselves in the foot, crap their own pants, vomit on themselves, whatever you want to call it. I don't think that iteration against this Patriots and this Chargers team is going to do that.
They shouldn't.
They certainly should not. And then it puts it, if they lose, now you get back to the point where then that game doesn't actually matter for the Dolphins and they may rest their starters, or you get into a weird situation where McDaniel is going to have to choose a game that doesn't actually matter to them.
Or
how much does it matter that you're helping the Bills?
Yeah.
What does that mentally? What does it do if helping the Bills might mean you play them again the next week?
Yeah.
All of those different things. So there's going to be some weird things that come up based on the outcomes of these couple games.
But the Bills have got me excited again, and now I just want to run the table and have like a special Cinderella burn everything down season. That's what I want for Christmas.
It sure would be a lot for
Christmas. Speaking of Christmas, we have some friends at Leftern. They got a print here this week. I'm pretty sure I got it. Here, you got it. Let's go.
All right, beautiful. So week 15 of the season 5 of the Leftern Game Day series is out now. This week's awesome print was designed by local artist Amber Cecilia and is titled Yeehaw. 100 stamped and numbered prints get released each week on Instagram and Twitter at Leftern Co. So give them a follow. The website is to purchase is www.leftern.co. Grab one before they're gone. Individual print sales this season help support Buffalo Cares, a local nonprofit that helps find homes for abandoned and sheltered animals locally. Please go support local artists, local businesses, and a local nonprofit during doing incredible work. And there's no more better example than this weekend. If you need to get some holiday shopping done and want to support some awesome local businesses, our friends at Leftern are hosting an event on Saturday from 2 to 6 at their space at 523 Main Street in downtown Buffalo. 12 local vendors, coffee, hot chocolate, puppies and kittens to meet and adopt if you're looking for it. There's plenty of bars and restaurants in the area if you want to grab something to eat and go check it out. I know you have been adamant about this and help talk about it with others. When you spend money locally, those are the people that buy Little League uniforms. Those are the people who reinvest immediately back into your community. I understand the convenience of the boxes that get dropped off at all of our doors. We're just as guilty. The convenience of going to the one store that has everything there. Anytime you have a choice, especially around holiday time, try to pick out a couple things you can spend locally. Support your local businesses. We're really proud to be working with Greg and Melissa and the people at Leftern and how much they prioritize, bringing in other businesses, helping other small businesses, giving them a platform and a space to be able to sell their products and goods. It really feels good to do that. We got to go help with one of their events, in the home opener kickoff. This is another one just like that. Try to find your way over there. Again, 523 Main Street in downtown Buffalo this Saturday from 2 to 6 to be well worth your time.
Yes. One real quick circle back to the print is super dope. For those
Pretty
not looking right now, it's like just really clean fonts. It's it's Dallas. It's a skull with a hat on it, and then Buffalo and some bison skull behind it, but it's really just classy done. This might be another one. I'm just sitting here staring at the prints and thinking I have to get it. But back to the local stuff you said too, and that event this weekend also. All that stuff's great. You're right. Like there's tons of studies too that show that spending local matters. It's not just me blowing steam about local shopping, but outside of that, that area is so beautiful. We were down there this summer and it was bustling with that type of Bills energy and cool energy. And you get that with the holiday season, get some hot cocoa, get some coffee, like you said, walking around downtown. They do it up so nice in that Main Street area for the holiday season. So there's something romantic about the holiday season. You know me, Greg. I love the old holiday season. So definitely get down there and check it out if you've got time on Saturday. Even if you're not necessarily shopping, I guarantee you're going to walk out of there buying something. All those cool local vendor things. It was nice.
A fun one here. The first print that I bought from our friends at Leftern was from this game back in 2019, the Thanksgiving game.
Oh yeah.
With the floats, and it had the cowboy and the buffalo float. And this, in my mind, is always going to be what I remember as the Josh Allen coming out party nationally. That Cowboys game, you remember the 4th
sneak.
and 1
with
the sneak where he lost it, and they end up kind of being that awesome. And then we had the Philly special play with the pass back with the trick plays, and just like
good old Dable days.
The big, like, hey, this Josh Allen guy might be a real thing. That's the game in my mind that always sticks out. So I love that print. It's very special to me. And it was the first time that I was able to patronize our friends at Leftern.
Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
Do you have, coming off of the bye week, we got to see this team. Do you have did they meet your fresh look takes from coming off the bye? And do they have anything new fresh look takes? Do you have anything you're looking to see going forward here?
So there's a piece of it that I think we were kind of curious what that other passing element would be in the mixture of the snaps. And now this week, I actually want to see even a little more 12 personnel, a little bit more Dawson Knox, and Connor touched on why I want this to be. So not the Josh Allen coming out party. I want this to be the game where other more casual fans or non-Bills fans are coming out being like, oh, that James Cook guy's real. Like that's a thing. I want this to be the James Cook game. Like, every game is a Josh Allen game. He's always going to be the most important thing we do. You can run on this Cowboys team.
Yeah.
I want this. You can run at Micah Parsons. I want reps running at Micah Parsons to get him as tired as he's capable of being. I don't know if he ever gets tired. I want to run at him specifically, because when Osiris Torrance is pass blocking him, I don't love that. When Osiris Torrance is run blocking Micah Parsons, I'm good with that. I'm okay with that matchup. I want that matchup. I want him leaning on him with all 335 sweaty pounds all over him. I want this to be, I'm okay with some Ty Johnson and some Latavius Murray, but I want this to be the game where you and I are talking in the post game of, oh, that's the mix we want. That was cool that we got 19 James Cook carries and 4 catches. I want this to be the James Cook game. And I think a piece of that needs to be, maybe this is a 55% 12 personnel game, and we see a big, now Dawson Knox had a game to kind of get eased back into it. I don't want Dalton Kincaid off the field, but I want Dawson Knox out there a lot. And then I want to see the run. Oh, hey, look, we leaked out Dawson Knox out for a nice touchdown, and we leak him out into the formation because they're used to him running the whole time. I want to see more of that to be able to control as few possessions as possible for that Cowboys offense to get.
Yeah, I'm close with you on that. Where I'm coming into this game is definitely attacking them in the run, and I do want it to be a big James Cook game, both in the run and pass. I think the stuff they did using him up the seam, I think you're still going to be able to have those types of matchups on linebackers in this game. So usage for him's definitely a priority, but for me, it's just the run game in general. And I do also want to see Ty Johnson get, I want people to walk away and be like, well, dang, James Cook, but also like, should I handcuff this Ty Johnson dude? Like, because every time I see him touching the ball, I just see like more explosion. And it's like, dang, we have James Cook can do this, but then when you need to take a break, you have a guy that has that type of game-breaking explosion too, and just keeping that pedal down. I don't need to see as much Latavius Murray. I do think we could see Josh in some of that short yardage stuff against a team like this, and that's another thing is design runs for Josh early in this game. Get Josh hit and get him that he wants that contact. I do think Fitzpatrick said it a while back, like getting him involved in the game in that way early creates a different Josh Allen. And we want that guy. If you're going to be using the pass game, it's got to be crazy Josh Allen making crazy throws to these guys because they're going to be covered. There's going to be good coverage. So you need to do that. We need Josh to make some crazy stiff arm away from Micah Parsons in the pass game and make some crazy plays on his own. But in the run game, I think that you can dictate and control a little bit more. We know the Bills love to run that duo stuff right in the middle. Like you're going to be able to eat up 4 or 5 yards a clip against this team if you lean into it and can stick with it with consistency. So I agree with you. I think a James Cook game is coming, but really just to me, it's the patience. Can Joe Brady stick to the run game? Even if they get, like, you can't do it when you're down 2 scores, but if they're down a score, can they stick into the run game, lean into it, not get antsy to put the ball in Josh's hands?
No, I think that's really, really well said in the discipline and, just the confidence to commit to what is in the game plan for a reason and is the right strategy for a reason. And that, this is one of those games where I don't want to win the toss and choose it. I want it to be because the Cowboys won the toss and they deferred, but I kind of want the ball first and I want to run the ball right at them on the first drive and score. So I don't care so much that like we need to win the toss and choose it, but I won't be sad if they win the toss and defer. Because if we win it, I do want them to defer and get the ball coming out of halftime and give me the chance for the double dip and to have the first position of the second half. I want that.
I want to be able to go up multiple scores on them at some point.
Correct. But if we lose the toss and they defer, I won't be upset because I do think there's some value in a game like this specifically of where controlling the game script will matter. We do not want to get into a hole against this team because that is exactly what their defense is built for.
They're built a boat race.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they're really good at it.
Yeah.
And they've just done 6 in a row exceptionally well.
Yeah.
I don't want any part of that.
I do not want to do it. So
any other fresh designs for you?
No, I mean, we're coming up on an hour here. We could talk about, I do think that it is interesting what the defense looked like a little bit last week. I'm going to be interested to see how this is going to be maybe the most complex passing attack that they've gone against, really. Like Jalen Hurts is fine. There's definitely some talent on the Philadelphia Eagles in terms of the receivers. I don't know that Jalen Hurts is the type of processing quarterback that can scan the whole field and find open guys like Dak can. I don't know that Bills fans give Dak Prescott enough credit either for being one of the top quarterbacks in the NFL right now, but he's probably right now par for par with Josh Allen in every metric, and he's not turning the ball over at the clips that Josh Allen is, and so he's reading the field, getting the most.
I think right now, I think that Dak Prescott's the MVP right now.
Probably, right?
I mean, I think it's him and
they're not going to give it to Micah.
I think it's him and Brock Purdy at this moment. I think that he's the MVP at this time.
Yeah, they're not going to give it to a defensive player like they should, Micah Parsons or Miles
Garrett. Correct. But I think you have a pretty good argument. Heck, if we're being completely honest, I think Tyreek Hill probably has as good of a actual case at it as anybody. He, if you're going to have a year where you give it to a non-quarterback, I think Christian McCaffrey and Tyreek Hill have a pretty good case.
Yeah, I agree.
Of it should be them.
Yeah,
I wish one of the defenders was on their team's pace. Yeah. Like I wish that one of the defenders, if the pace that Myles Garrett was on initially, if he had stayed there, where he was on pace at one point for like 28 sacks and like was going to shatter the season record, this would be a fun season to have that debate where somebody really gave him the statistical case. In the same way that if Tyreek hadn't got hurt against Tennessee and he was on pace for 2,000 yards, I think sometimes those narrative awards in the voting element, you need one of those like milestone numbers to be the same way Adrian Peterson got it when he went over 2,000 yards and all those different pieces. It'd be interesting to see.
Yeah.
But right now, I do think if there was a vote today, I think it'd be super close between Purdy and Dak, and I think Dak might get it.
I think he might, and for good reason though. Like this is an
it's
offense that is
awesome.
coming. This is a buzzsaw of an offense when they're clicking, and it's
for the team with the best record in the NFL.
Yeah, and
tied for, but the best record in the
NFL. They're not wrong in that the offensive line's not as good as everybody thinks it is. Like, Dak does a lot of really special things that very few guys can do. He can extend plays. He can find the guys open. So I'm interested in terms of. We've seen this Bills defense be able to do pretty well and play above expectation in a lot of these games, but we've seen them fall apart against some bad quarterbacks too. So like, what are they going to bring out that's different? That's going to make a guy like Dak Prescott in this offense slow down at all. Like, because even their field goal range is bigger than everybody's range too. Like, they're getting points all over the place. Field goal kicking, getting drives ending in points. Pretty much everything they do right now ends in points. How do you limit some of that with the defense that hasn't been super great and doesn't show up well in the metrics?
Yeah, and I think here maybe a Cowboys fan in the chat, but if not, I think making the same case Connor did. Allen has had an interception every single game for 8 games, and Dak hasn't. I think that is absolutely can be a deciding factor in a game like this, where one extra possession in either way could decide this. If we see Dak break that streak and throw picks, or the opposite, Josh break his streak, and it's weird that we sadly need him to break a streak of simply not throwing an interception, but that'd be lovely if we could have a game where he doesn't throw an interception.
Yeah, against a team that does get interceptions.
Yes, that is crazy. Route jumping happy.
Yeah.
So, all right, let's get ourselves out of here. What do you predict for the game here? Or do you want me to lead off? I'll give you the
chance. No, I can go for it. Get it out of the way here. I haven't hot on this one. I think I was similar to where I forget exactly what Connor said. I'm at 35-33. Okay, I'm at 34-30 Bills winning the game. I don't know, man. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game. I do think that the Bills maybe get on a little bit of a tear in the second half. I think Brady figures out some stuff, gets some big explosive plays. And I think the Bills do get a timely turnover in the second half that gives them the possession they need to go up a little bit here. And they go up, and I think the Cowboys score late but don't have enough in them. Bills get the ball and just kneel it out and are able to get out of there with a win. And the Cowboys are just a little bit of a different team on the road than at home. And that's
correct.
Whatever reason it is, I did want to ask Connor what he thinks the reason is. Whatever the reason is, it's real. The splits are true. And they have a lot, I think, to prove to themselves and to the media that they can come to a cold weather city, play again. I think a lot of people have given them a hard time about really who have they beat. Come play a team that everyone thinks is a good team and really get a signature win for themselves. So I think there's a lot of pressure there where the Bills, to your point, is like, okay, they're kind of limping around. Nobody expects the Bills necessarily to come in and win this game. I think the Bills are going to put everybody on notice, win this one in a high scoring shootout type of game. How about you? Where are you at? Are you close on us? You over? You're going you're like 48.
I'm actually going to surprise people the other way. I'm always the one that picks a shootout. I actually hinted at it, and is that an Easter egg? I don't know how this works. The ball control thing and reducing the number of possessions for Dallas, I think, will be part of our game plan. Running the ball, reducing the number of possessions they get. We are almost never in the position of not having the best offense in the game. And like, don't get me, I'm not saying like Josh Allen and Stefon Diggs can't be better than the Cowboys, but right now they are the better offense. And we always want more possessions because the more times our offense can touch the ball benefits us because we have a better offense than the other team. This is the rare instance where it benefits us to control the clock, to not give them more possessions, and to just bet on, hey, we can be more efficient and cleaner in our possessions than you will because we're going to try this. I think we'll see each team score 5 times, but I'm hoping the Bills get 3 touchdowns and 2 field goals, and they get 2 touchdowns and 3 field goals. So I'm going to go 27-23.
Okay.
And I think the Bills win it, and I think that it's maybe not quite as high scoring as what people think, and it might take a minute to feel that out, but we get kind of that back and forth finish to end the game, and still a really, really entertaining game, maybe lower scoring at halftime than people think, and maybe it's like a 10-7 kind of thing at halftime, and then kind of takes off a little bit more in the second half. But I think that we see something around there. I'm going to go Bills 27, Cowboys 23. The Bills barely cover, and it's barely under the over-under.
That's also, I think, too, like perspective. We talk about that. That's not like a low-scoring game.
No, that's 50 points.
Like
that's still like the highest over-under of any game this week.
I just think we frame like points in such a weird way, right?
Yeah.
Like I'm going a little lower, but that's still like kind of a shootout.
27-23 is a high scoring. 50 points total is a high scoring game.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Anyways,
we'll see. Yeah, but yes, it'd be really fun if it's 45-48 and it's just like choo choo choo.
Oh man. Yeah,
if we just see like just trading touchdown shots, it'd be awesome.
The NFL wants that, so we might.
Oh god, yes,
we might see that. What I just don't want to see is a display of flags. Like let this game
have the refs for 1 week. Like, don't get me wrong, we chuckled a little bit because we finally were the ones that benefited from it, but we don't want that either. Like, don't get me wrong, I took it. I'm happy. I laughed about it, but that's still it. What annoys me is
it muddies
that
the game.
Took away from the Bills played really well. The defense played really well. It made it seem like that saved us. No, the defense played well. They stopped them multiple times down the stretch. And yes, it could have been one, crazy fluky play, but it took away from what should have been the actual story about how well Josh Allen played and driving them for that game-winning touch or the game-winning, field goal drive. That should have been the story, not that it was some gift from the referees. That kind of annoys me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, the refs have been that way all year. And so, I just don't want to see them take over this game. This is one that I think, even if you're not a fan of the Bills or the Cowboys, we're coming up on the holidays. Games are starting to matter. Like, this game feels sexy to the NFL right now. Like, Josh Allen, this offense is clicking. Dak and that offense is clicking. Like, it might not live up to the hype, but if anyone, and I can't think of any really other ones on the schedule coming up where it feels like this could be a Super Bowl matchup potentially. And it has all the pieces that make for those exciting matchups.
Yeah, 100%. It's exactly where that is, and I think people have reason to be excited about it. And there's one more. The next week, San Francisco and Baltimore will be the one other where I think people will talk about it that way. Those are the two down the stretch here where, hey, this has a chance to be a big time potential Super Bowl preview. So
look at us talking like 3 weeks ago.
Oh my God,
ending the world. We were going to give up on the show, and now
I was ready.
Hey, look at it. We're a top tier Super Bowl preview.
Yeah. I can't wait to get kicked in the teeth and be brought painfully back to reality because that's how life works in Buffalo.
Because we're going like a 3-game losing streak here.
Yeah, correct. Yeah, we're going to lose to the Cowboys, Chargers, and Patriots. Of course we are.
Yeah.
All right, guys. So as Eric yelled at you earlier about to hit that like button, make sure that you do that and help us out. We appreciate it very, very much. This has been a ton of fun. The chat was great tonight. Really nice. Connor was a first-time guest. I thought he was a great addition for the show here tonight. Some really good questions coming in for everybody. But this has been really nice. Make sure you're checking out all the content across the Cover One platform. We got all kinds of good shows getting ready for you, leading us right into this game. And then Aaron and I will be here for you Sunday evening after a fantastic Buffalo Bills Dallas Cowboys game. But on behalf of producer Chris Kepner and Aaron Quinn, I am Greg Tompsett. You have been listening to Cover One Buffalo, and we are out.